about to hear spine-tingling tales of the paranormal, bizarre coincidence, and unexplained phenomena. This is Strange Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at strangepodcast.com.
This is episode 12. I'm Chris Batchelor. Thank you for listening. In this episode, we look at one of my favourite mysteries originating from here in the UK. This tale is so strange, you could easily see Hollywood producing a horror thriller from the historical facts you're about to hear. Is it possible for a painting to be cursed? The homes in which the paintings hang have mysterious fires that always leave the painting intact and undamaged, but the property devastated. So what is this painting? Who's the artist? And would you be brave enough to hang one in your home? This, of course, is Strange Podcast, and this time we look at the curse of the crying boy.
You can support Strange Podcast by clicking on the donate page at strangepodcast.com.
Well, hello, and welcome to episode 12 of Strange Podcast. This is our first episode of 2017, so Happy New Year, and thanks very much as ever for supporting the podcast, finding us on Facebook and Twitter, and at strangepodcast.com. A special thank you this time goes to Gordon, who's become our first person to take up our offer of a button pin badge. Now, if you haven't heard about this yet, in our last episode we officially launched our Nobody Knows I'm Strange button pin badge campaign. This means everybody who donates to the show, whether you make a one-off donation or sign up with Patreon for a monthly donation, you'll receive one of our Nobody Knows I'm Strange button pin badges. Now, if that sounds of interest to you, like it did to Gordon, go to our website, strangepodcast.com. If you click on the donate page there, you can see what the badge looks like and how you can get yours.
Have you witnessed an apparition, seen a UFO, or even Bigfoot? Whatever your strange story, we want to hear from you. Your story could be featured in a future episode. Go to strangepodcast.com for more.
The Curse of the Crying Boy first appeared in the British tabloid newspaper The Sun on the 4th of September 1985. The article told of how Ron and May Hall blamed a cheap painting of a young boy with tears rolling down his face for a fire which destroyed their home in Rotherham, South Yorkshire. The blaze broke out in the kitchen of their home, where they'd lived for 27 years, and spread rapidly. But although the house was badly damaged, the framed print of the crying boy escaped unscathed. It continued to hang there, undamaged, surrounded by charred walls and embers. You can read the original Sun newspaper article on the episode page at strangepodcast.com/episode 12. Now, a house fire of this sort would normally only warrant a brief mention in the national newspapers, if at all. However, what made this article so strange were the comments made by fire station officer Alan Wilkinson. He said he knew of numerous other similar cases where prints of the crying boy had turned up undamaged in the ruins of homes destroyed by fires. In fact, it's claimed there were over 50 other reports of crying boy house fires at the time. In the mid-80s, paintings of this sort were popular and were hanging in many people's homes. It's estimated there could have been as many as 50,000 paintings of the crying boy by the same artist, hanging in living rooms and hallways. So what of the artist? And who was the crying boy? The crying boy paintings are by the artist known as Giovanni Bragolin. He was an academically trained painter working in post-war Venice as an artist and restorer, producing the crying boy paintings for tourists. At least 65 such paintings were made under the name Bragolin, reproductions of which were sold worldwide. However, he didn't get as much royalty for the reproductions as he should have. In the 1970s, he was found to be alive and doing well and still painting. Claims that he fled to Spain after the war, painting children from a local orphanage, which subsequently burnt down, appear to be urban myth. Nobody really knows who the crying boy is. As with most mysteries, urban legend has become entwined with fact. Here is a synopsis of the boy's life. We can't confirm if any of this information bears any truth, but it's said the orphan boy had run away after seeing his parents die in a blaze, and he never spoke again. And because wherever he settled, fires would mysteriously break out, he became known to locals as Diablo or Devil. Warned by a Catholic priest that the boy was jinxed, Bragolin nevertheless insisted on painting the boy. When the artist's studio burnt down in a blaze, he blamed the orphan boy, and Bragolin's career was likewise jinxed forevermore. It's thought that years later, now as a 19-year-old, the boy died in a car accident when the car he was in exploded into flames. Of course, nobody came forward to claim his body. On the 5th of September 1985, the Sun newspaper ran a follow-up story, reporting that scores of horrified readers claimed to be victims of the curse of the crying boy, and flooded the newspaper with calls. They all feared they were jinxed by having paintings in their homes. Readers were left with an overwhelming impression that something supernatural was going on. Dora from Surrey claimed her house was gutted just 6 months after she bought a print of the painting. All my paintings were destroyed, she said, except the one of the crying boy. Sandra in North Yorkshire said her sister-in-law, herself and a friend had all suffered disastrous fires since they acquired copies. Another family from Nottingham blamed the print for a blaze which left them homeless. And Brian, whose wife and 3 children needed treatment for smoke inhalation, said he'd destroyed his copy after returning from hospital to find it hanging, undamaged, on the blackened walls of his living room. Another reader reported an attempt to destroy 2 of the prints by fire, only to find, to her horror, they would not burn. Her claims were tested by a security guard called Paul Collier, who tossed one of his 2 prints into a bonfire. Despite being left there in the flames for an hour, it wasn't even scorched. It was frightening. The fire wouldn't even touch it, he said. I really believe it. I believe it's jinxed. We feel doubly at risk with 2 of these in the house, and we're determined to get rid of them. Rotherham Fire Station officer Alan Wilkinson dismissed any connection with the supernatural. Wilkinson, who had 33 years' experience, said he wasn't superstitious and had satisfied himself that most of the fires had been caused by human carelessness. But he could not explain how the paintings had survived the inferno, which generated heat sufficient to strip plaster from walls. His wife had her own theory. I always say it's the tears putting out the fire, she said. The Sun newspaper, not interested in finding a rational explanation, ignored Wilkinson's comments and claimed fire chiefs have admitted they have no logical explanation for a number of recent incidents. The widespread anxiety this story generated left South Yorkshire Fire Service to issue a statement which aimed to debunk the connection between the fires and the prints. It pointed out that the most recent blaze was started by an electrical fire left too close to a bed. Chief Divisional Officer Mike Riley said a large number of the prints have been sold and any connection with fires is purely coincidental. Fires are not started by pictures or coincidence, but by carelessness. The fire service's statement failed to have much effect in calming public opinion. Stories of the curse were still being promoted by the tabloid newspaper, The Sun. Soon afterwards, news came of a crying boy that had survived a fire which gutted an Italian restaurant in Great Yarmouth. Enough is enough, folks, read the headline. The newspaper went on to say, if you are worried about a crying boy picture hanging in your home, send it to us immediately. We will destroy it for you, and that should see the back of any curse." Well, the newspaper were inundated with prints of the crying boy, so much so in a grand publicity stunt on Halloween, the newspaper organised a mass burning of the pictures. 2 van loads of donated crying boy prints were built into a huge pyre and set alight. Over future years, other British tabloids have tried to claim that the curse has returned, with stories similar to that we've mentioned previously. It's said that Fire Station Officer Alan Wilkinson was given a copy of the painting as a retirement gift, but refused to take it home. I'd like to now tell you a story about a haunted or possessed picture. I can't tell you if this is a paranormal story, and I can't tell you if this is just a story of bizarre coincidence. I can, though, tell you this story is true because this is my story. It happened to me. I was in my late teens or early 20s and had been invited by a work colleague to go to their house to have a beer and stay over the night. I'd never been to their house before. Never met their girlfriend who lived in the house, and I certainly didn't know the area very well. This was Kingswear, which is a tiny little town in South Devon in the UK. Kingswear overlooks some water, and on the other side of the water, or the water is the River Dart, is Dartmouth, which is a very famous and historic naval town. Kingswear is made up of large buildings that are Victorian villas. Most of these Victorian villas now have been converted into separate dwellings, so they're very large structures, and they could be 3 or 4 separate flats. My friend and his girlfriend lived on the top floor of one of these flats. Anyway, we sat there, it was late, dark outside, 10 o'clock at night, having a beer and talking, and my friend decided to show me around the flat, as you do, somewhere where your friend lives. You've never been before. They normally give you a tour, don't they? You know, this is the kitchen, this is the dining room, this is the lounge, and through here's the hallway. And that's where we saw a beautiful painting of a woman. She seemed to be in sort of, mid-age, in her 50s perhaps. She was wearing a blue dress, and I remember had very piercing blue eyes. My friend looked at me and he said, when I moved in here, the flatmate that I was living with at the time, who very sadly passed away in a work accident some months previous, he and the landlord said to me that I was to never touch or move this painting. This painting has to stay in the hallway exactly as it is. Now, me being a young, late teens, early 20-year-old, this was like a red rag to a bull. So I decided to grab the picture and shake it from side to side. Now, I didn't remove the picture from the wall. I certainly didn't damage it in any way, but I disrespected the picture by wobbling it on the wall. We continued the rest of the tour. My friend wasn't really very impressed that I'd done that. He certainly hadn't done anything towards the picture like that because he believed the warning that he was given. We later arrived at the lounge and we sat down, had a beer and started talking. And I remember I was sat with my back to a bay window. My friend and his girlfriend were sat on the sofa opposite me, and we were just generally talking about life and, chewing the cud as you do. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was a complete power cut. The room fell into darkness. And I remember being so shocked at how dark everything was. Now, this was out of the blue. Somebody had just literally turned the lights off. And we sat there shocked, all 3 of us, in the pitch black. And I remember what he had said about the painting. And in those moments of darkness, I expected something to happen to me for disrespecting the painting. Maybe a hand to grab me, or somebody pull my hair, or there'd be some sort of assault from the darkness from the lady in the picture. Nothing happened, apart from the fact I was scared. Really scared. After about 20 seconds, the lights came back on, and my friend went to check on the fuse box, the electricity box, to make sure everything was as it should be. And I remember he said, That's really strange. Nothing's tripped out. None of the fuses have gone. Everything is as it should be. There is no explanation for the lights going out. It scared me so much. The plan was for me to sleep on the sofa that night. I slept on the floor of his bedroom because I was too scared to be in the flat on my own. As I said at the beginning of this short story, I don't know if that was a paranormal experience or just a bizarre coincidence that the lights went out and they would have gone out anyway, even if I hadn't have disrespected that painting. But I do remember the sense of fear, and even now, recording this podcast, relaying the story to you, it sends a bit of a shiver down my spine. Maybe if it was a paranormal experience, the fact that I was so scared and shocked by being plunged into complete darkness, that was enough. That was a lesson learned. Don't mess with me, or something worse will happen. I certainly now, if I came across that picture again, or if I was invited back to that flat, I certainly would not touch that picture again, or make any gesture of disrespect towards it.
So, what do you think? Leave your thoughts and comments at strangepodcast.com. For more strange stories, find us on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, thank you for listening.